The room went still just long enough for my father to stand. Glasses paused midair. Conversations softened into polite silence. My mother smiled before he even spoke, like she already knew what was coming. He lifted his glass. To our only daughter, the one who never disappointed us. A ripple of laughter moved across the table. Applause followed. My sister placed her hand over her chest, pretending to be overwhelmed, her eyes shining just enough to make it believable. I didn't move. At first, I thought it was just a poor choice of words. Something accidental. Something that would be corrected in the next second. But it wasn't. My mother leaned in, kissed my sister's cheek, and said softly, yet loud enough for the table to hear, "You've always been enough for us." That's when I understood. No one looked at me. Not one person paused. Not one person corrected it. Not even out of politeness. I sat there, completely still, watching them celebrate a version of the family where I didn't exist. And, strangely, I wasn't shocked, just aware. I had spent years trying to earn moments like this. Being quieter, being better, being easier to accept, thinking maybe one day they'd say something like that about me too. But sitting there, listening to their words, I realized something simple. They didn't forget me. They chose her. Every time. I let my eyes move across the table, relatives smiling, nodding, playing along. Some of them knew. I could tell. But knowing and speaking are two different things. And no one was going to speak. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger. Not sadness. Clarity. My sister stood up to hug them. And the room filled with warmth that never quite reached my side of the table. It was like watching a performance I had unknowingly been written out of. So I stopped trying to be part of it. I picked up my glass slowly, held it in the air, for a second. A quiet toast no one noticed. Then I set it back down. No sound. No expression. No need. I pushed my chair back gently and stood up. The noise of the room swallowed the movement instantly. Conversations had already resumed. Laughter had already replaced the moment. Of course it had. I walked toward the hallway without saying a word. No one called my name. No one asked where I was going. Halfway to the door, I heard my father laugh again. My mother talking about how proud she was. My sister thanking them like it was something she had earned, not something that had always been given. I paused, just for a second, not because I was hurt, but because everything finally made sense. I grabbed my coat, slipped it on, and stepped outside into the cold night air. Behind me, the house was warm, loud, full of people who knew exactly who belonged. Ahead of me, it was quiet, and for the first time, that quiet felt right. They thought they had already decided my place in their world. They had no idea I had just walked out of it. Your one click can keep these stories alive. Subscribe, because every voice deserves to be heard. Time didn't fix anything. It revealed everything. I stopped calling, stopped explaining, stopped trying to be included in conversations that had already decided who I was. At first, they didn't notice. Then they did, and turned it into a story. She's being dramatic again. She'll come back when she calms down. But I didn't come back. I got quiet, not the kind of quiet that waits to be asked, the kind that stops expecting. My mornings changed first, earlier, slower, clearer. I started building routines that had nothing to do with them. Work, discipline, structure. No announcements, no updates, no need to prove anything to anyone watching from a distance. Because no one was watching, and that was the advantage. While they were repeating the same conversations, the same patterns, the same version of me they were comfortable with, I was becoming someone they didn't recognize anymore. Opportunities came quietly. I took them quietly. Mistakes happened. I fixed them quietly. Wins came too. Those I kept the quietest. Meanwhile, their world stayed loud. My sister's life looked perfect from the outside: celebrations, attention, constant validation. But perfection needs maintenance, and slowly, cracks started showing. Small at first, then harder to ignore. Arguments, tension, subtle complaints disguised as jokes. The same people who once praised her began whispering instead. Still, my name came up sometimes. She disappeared. She couldn't handle it. I never corrected them, because distance does something arguments never can. It lets the truth grow without interruption. Months passed, then more, and somewhere in between, I stopped thinking about proving them wrong. I wasn't building a comeback. I was building a life. A real one. Stable, independent, quietly strong. There was a moment, unexpected, when everything almost surfaced. A call, a situation, a small intersection between my world and theirs. For a second, it felt like the past might step into the present. But I didn't rush it, didn't explain, didn't reach. I just stayed where I was, steady, composed, untouched by the noise that once defined me, because I wasn't that person anymore, and they were still trying to talk about someone who no longer existed. They were still telling my story. I had already moved past it. Don't miss out on the journey. Subscribe and let's grow, laugh, and learn together. It happened without planning. A family gathering, smaller this time, quieter. I almost didn't go, but I did. When I walked in, the room didn't stop, but it shifted. Subtle, noticeable. Conversations slowed, just enough. My mother saw me first, then my father, then my sister. For a moment, no one spoke. Not because they didn't have words, because none of their old ones fit anymore. Someone asked what I'd been doing. I answered simply. No details, no performance, but it was enough. A name mentioned, a project recognized, a success they hadn't expected to hear. The room changed. I watched it happen, the realization moving quietly across their faces. The same people who once spoke for me, now listening carefully, trying to understand how much they had missed. My sister stayed silent. My father cleared his throat, like he wanted to say something, but didn't know how. And my mother just looked at me, not with pride, with confusion. I didn't fill the silence. I didn't correct the past. I didn't remind them. I just stood there, calm, steady, complete without their acknowledgement. When they finally spoke, it was softer, careful, almost respectful. But I didn't step back into that place. I had already outgrown it. I'm doing well, I said quietly. That's enough. No anger, no revenge, just distance that couldn't be closed anymore. They thought I was weak because I stayed silent. They didn't know I was simply busy becoming someone they could no longer ignore. Silence is not weakness. It is where clarity begins. I spent years trying to be seen by people who had already decided not to look. And the moment I stopped asking for their approval, everything changed. Not them. Me. Distance didn't break me. It revealed me. Some people only realize your value when your absence becomes permanent, and by then, it's too late, because real strength isn't proving them wrong. It's outgrowing the need to be right.